that like movement really does have the power to heal. I will be interviewing basically each of these individuals and talking with them, and then from there generating movement from the context of what we're talking about. So I was thinking of filming the end of March, doing a lot of the editing in April, and then submitting it in May. So I want you to.
I mean, actually, this timeline is like perfect with my sabbatical, because I was like, oh God, if she needs to work all next year, I don't know how much more I'd be able to give at that point. I mean, I would actually love to do more long term, but in terms of just like getting
it all
idea out there.
He also took some really nice portraits, up close portraits, headshots, if you will.
Mm-hmm. And all of these are black and white, yes? Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, black and white. He also has color ones, but I think his strongest work was in black and white. So
I really love black and white.
he must have been so good at connecting with people that they would allow him to take these intimate, vulnerable pictures of them,
Yeah.
not knowing what exactly he was going to do with them. So for me, I'm definitely interested in specifically in the home space, because it's very personal, and it's where people are most likely to be exactly who they are, right, and not anybody else but exactly who they are, and that is for me is the most I think it's the richest thing you could possibly see about a person is when they are being exactly who they are. Um, so I'm not sure how that would be can be worked in, but if I would, that's something I would be interested in doing generally. But I think if there is like any kind of way uh, to connect that, then I, that just
So,
that would be cool. Mhm.
So, I mean, 5 minutes is not that long. I mean, especially for a documentary, right? Documentary kind of style. So, just off the top of my head, it almost seems like, for instance, if we had 3 people, each one might be a minute and a half.
what I'm also seeing is little like snapshots of, okay, so for instance, I have a friend. Um, she actually was a dancer. She's not dancing currently, but she has 3 autoimmune diseases. And so she has fibromyalgia, lupus. She was just diagnosed with diabetes 2 years ago. And she suffers from, a lot of anxiety as well. And so we call her like she's an invisible illness warrior. But on the outside, she looks like a healthy 33-year-old. You wouldn't know just by looking at her. But almost like these little quick snapshots, like, here's all the medications she's taking, just like a snapshot of that. And like maybe just a close up on her face. That's not something you would tell just by looking at her. For the film aspect, I'm working with the title Seen, Not Heard.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a lot about like what we see on the outside, but we fail to acknowledge, the depth of this human on the inside. Because I want to make this also accessible, like I'm thinking of including captioning underneath. So that's something that also, yes.
Well, all of this sounds like definitely well thought out and interesting, and in some ways we kind of think alike in terms of, 1 second.
Yeah, no problem.
Free time, okay? Thank you. In terms of not just making a performance, but like making it a multimedia kind of event and including, making it more accessible to even people who don't think they're dance fans,
Yeah, and then the post performance would be a talk back with the audience, and have your thoughts been changed after watching this live performance, this particular individual perform from when you came in and saw, and now you've just
Yep.
witnessed this experience.
All of that sounds great. I would say, I mean, to echo what you are doing, as part of my mini documentaries, I've been looking into filming people who are blind or severely vision impaired who have made careers in dance for themselves. So that's one of the storylines I'm following. Both of those, I mean, they seem like they're kind of more in natural settings. Like it sounds kind of like you're in a documentary, except for the whole mirror thing. If you want them in front of a mirror, I mean, there's a variety of ways to do that. Like we could actually film in front of the real mirror and do that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I'm just thinking editing wise, it could also be like a graphic of that mirror where you kind of meld, you put the other image of the person who's in the mirror on top of that. Oh, I mean, all of that's possible. That's the beauty about editing, you know.
What do you use? What software do you use to edit mostly?
I use Final Cut Pro, which is like, it's like a big step up from iMovie, but you know, same brand. Well, I mean, that's part of it. It's like, you know, think simple. You probably have direct access to your nephew. You have direct access to your grandma.
Well, that's why I'm thinking a little bit more local.
I mean, certainly very interesting. Can I just go back to the technical aspect of the mirroring? Do you see the mirror in with every single one of these people?
So this is where I'm like stuck as far as like film, and that's why your expertise are greatly appreciated, because I don't want it to get so repetitive where you're like, okay, it's just another person standing in front of a mirror. I think there can be shots of that, but then maybe going away and just like,
Yeah, so I mean, we can, okay, that's what I was gonna see if you were like fixated on just that, because I think we could discover some really interesting stuff, like with a hand mirror or, you know, and like the medicine cabinet mirror, you know, and you don't really have it as the main focus.
yes.
Because I mean, mirrors are always interesting in dance because, you know, you get that extra angle.
Yeah. I
Maybe
know it's tricky.
you would think, oh, maybe I wonder if this person is like this, you know, to be later revealed beyond the cover.
Yes. So yes, that is what I'm picturing for like the out outside of the book. And then as you go through these different pages are these different layers of this person, which would include some of those snapshots into the objects and also into their homes. So it's like you're going just beyond the surface of the human and finding out what's underneath that. What might be perceived perceptions of you? And how has this impacted you?
So I mean, when people probably look at me, they probably think, okay, well, they probably see my glasses. A lot of people do see my hair. Like hair is one thing that a lot of people recognize about me first, but they also probably perceive that I'm healthy. Like they think they see I'm young and they're like, oh, you know, she's not, you know, she looks like athletic build, you know, she looks healthy. But, you know, deep down, you know, inside I'm fighting daily to look well, and you know, like because my body, you know, is fighting against me, but you can't see that. So and then perceived deceptions, yeah, like people probably they assume I'm healthy. And like when you're out in public, sometimes I'll sit in those like those, you know, disability seats on the subway. If it's like it's the only seat available. And this was pre-pandemic, I noticed a lot, but I would get a lot of like stares from like some people sometimes. Like people would be like, you feel it, like my diabetes diagnosis, that just really kind of stopped me in my track. Because I had let myself go. I mean, growing up, like, you know, as a dancer, being healthy, I mean, another portion that did stop me was, you know, the lupus diagnosis, blood clots in my lungs, my move to New Jersey due to that. You learn a lot. Like, I mean, But when like my diabetes, like I really had just kind of stopped taking care of myself and kind of was just like, all right, this is it. This is life, just day to day on like autopilot. And like it makes you stop and like really think to be told like, well, if you didn't come into the hospital at this point, you could have died. Like hearing those words, it's like a game changer. And like it really makes you stop and appreciate life and like realize that you have to create happiness like where you are, and it's not anybody else's job to make you happy. And you're not gonna like nothing is perfect and nothing is guaranteed, and like if you want something you have to work for it, but like you also have to realize sometimes like maybe just grow where you are right now, and like that will help you to grow into what you need to be like later on. Like find and create the happiness in day-to-day life, like realizing that like life is a gift. Like that kind of was a big thing for me with
Like transition,
like a transitional, yeah,
a little transitional moment, and just like a look. Like it does not have to be complicated.
yeah.
And then
Even if it's, yeah, just like my hands coming down and like again you said looking at the
Yeah.
camera like, and like this is what I want you to see, like kind of a thing.
And if you were to stand up, but you know what? Thinking, yeah, that's it. Oh, I like that. So you did like here, here. You did here. Can this hand, when it comes to touch your face, just see like, oh, like this is me. This is me. I'm Tristan.
Like when I speak to mom and that they're going here and they're going, what do you call it? What is it? But they're not. But like, I can't be responsible for everybody.
Exactly. But like, how does that make you feel? Like in your body, like if you're worried about them, does it make you like kind of? I don't know. How would you show that?
That I'm worried about them.
Oh, I like it. Kind of your focus up, like you're touching and you're looking up because you're thinking about them, right?
Yeah.
I like that.
I'll be thinking. I never,
Okay.
when I go to sleep at night, I pray for all of them.
Is there something that you do when you pray?
Now I lay me down to sleep every night.
You do what?
Now I lay me down to sleep and praise the Lord my soul to keep. And if I die before I wake, I praise the Lord my soul to take. Thank you for sending me my wonderful children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. Please keep them well and safe out of harm's way. This is every night.
This is what you say?
Yes.
I think it would be really interesting to see some kind of like candid behind the scenes of the filming. Again, I don't know how that lighting or anything would interrupt, but I love that kind of like behind the scenes. This is what's happening.
The other thing with her is if we wanted more material of her, which we probably will, is I can put her clip into reverse so it looks like she's going the other way.
Oh, I think reverse would be something cool to play
Or
with.
I could so like I would go to color, saturation. Hold on, I'm trying to find a clip that would be easy to show here. Okay, I think on Alyssa's like exposure, I could play with that and make it lighter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or even darker if we want. So those are other things that you can layer on top.
That's under exposure.
So I mean, it can go on forever. I mean, I could literally spend like an hour just working on these tiny little clips.
Yeah.
If you get funky is like with transform, and I think you can do a lot of this in iMovie, but not with as much precision, is like just playing around with,
So transform is the size of the clip.
It's the size. You can also, if you take a diagonal, why isn't it letting me do that? Well, you can make mirrors out of them. Yeah, exactly. Resize, stretch. There is a way, I think maybe I have to put if I remember correctly, you put an effect on top of it and you can kind of really skew it and make it look like a diagonal. I don't know if this one will work, but like, let's say we want your grandma's eyes, but your nephew's nose. So I need to crop her thing more.
Okay.
And go like, ooh, that is creepy. All right.
Wow.
All right. And let me get rid of that.
That is strange, but cool.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I don't want these photos now, but I do think I could probably use some of these. Yeah. And that's another way to make all three connect to each other. Just the style of all of a sudden seeing a photo, Good. One thing I've noticed just from my own like interviewing is like we want to encourage them to talk, but then our sounds come out like, oh yeah,
Yeah, I know, and I'm
like hard to keep.
Yes.
Actually, an external mic will probably work really well. It's
wondering,
or if like suddenly a car drives by and you heard that, you could say, Grandma, do you mind repeating that again? And then we just need to see that voice is coming from her.
I get nervous sometimes and like thinking there's two scenarios. So there's the look over the shoulder, which is where that movement came from.
Yep.
Where we have them walking.
Yeah. I also thought the walking would work well there, which then obviously would mean we'd have to think about the walking coming up.
Yes.
In that place, but anyway. Yeah, I agree with that. Plus, like, because the walking, he looks so serious and like his interview is not really serious. Except for that one part, he's sweet and happy. So I'm like, oh, he looks so somber walking. So, okay, cool.
So that could lead into, at first it was just my mom and I, it was just the two of us. And then it became 4. That ties together the pieces, stepdad. But I was thinking of how could we shift it? Like, I like the challenge. That was he mentions it was a really hard time.
Yep.
We had to stay strong. My mom was the strongest. So I know that's kind of like a twisted, but just trying to see the thread to.
Yeah. When she's talking about her husband, like the fact that she says, I went there every day, except for the day I went to bingo.
Yes. That's such her personality. Or like, I think she says even on my bingo day.
Like, even though that's not essential to the story, I think it's absolutely necessary to keep it in because it's just so funny and like
her
it
personality.
adds to the humanness of the story. So anyway, I'll just keep all of that in, and when you listen to it, feel free to chop and block.
So there's a whole story that I want to record when she had glasses since the time she was 4 years old.
It is in the interviews. Yeah.
And so the idea of people calling her 4 Eyes, she got a lot as a child. And so like this whole movement is her glasses.
Oh, okay.
You just have to type in to adjust it.
Does it do it automatically for you?
Yeah, it pulls up the whole script.
Wait, you don't even have to insert the script. They listen to the audio and it generates it?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's awesome. That takes a lot of work away. That's awesome.
I'm in the middle of editing, but it pulls up all of this.
I'm going to screenshot just so I remember what that logo looks like.
Yeah, it's like attached to a lot of universities use it. That's so awesome. I only have access because of that. And we actually thought, and they're like, oh, now I can understand the story. And now I can't unsee these photos because, there was some hesitation because this is a dance film to have movement. And so would it be a break? And, that's something that we were playing around with as well. So a lot of the feedback was really positive on that note because it's helped tying together the story, which is
Okay.
what I feel as well. As far as it being static, I know like someone had mentioned, I know you mentioned it too, and I like, you know, the Ken's burn of like zooming in to add some movement. But I know that that's also a different look. Like that doesn't bother me. Some people had mentioned like the photos more spread out versus a clump, but I think the clump helps what we're
Yeah.
talking.
I think it just depends on what it is. Okay.
Exactly.
Of film, I feel like almost the simpler the better.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
You know what I just thought about with the seen not heard is like, it's interesting that there's 3 images that are coming up.
well, like,
So it could possibly be like one of the things
or
comes
eyes.
up, you see the eyes seen, the next one not, or
Not.
seen, and then maybe the next one is
Not.
heard. And then you're going to play around with this. This actually might look good going from Graham's last image of her film and blend it into that, because then they're already here. And then
Ah.
I think so. I think so. So long as the timeline and everything works out. Like, you know, I've got, you know, definitely have more time than I usually do. And your project is very, very much in alignment with things that I already had in my brain anyway, about the types of population to work with and stuff like that. So, you know, I think it's really interesting. And, you know, it is a big project. It's a project that more than one person needs to work on. So.
Yeah. And that's my hopes too, is that you can utilize this. Like this is not just for me. This is for you to use too, however which way you want. Like again, I was thinking of like submitting things to film festivals and whatnot. Like, you know, make this something bigger. It's not just like this is my school project and that's it. No, this is a part of like a larger vision. And it's great to have, you know, more input and more ideas, and you know, 2 heads are better than one.